Hopefulness 2.0, April 16th. I was really debating on whether calling it hopelessness. I still kind of want to call it that, but in so doing, and the reason why I didn't do it, I think, at least, is I kind of got some ideas from that, which is weird. So kind of like when I said that I was going to move to Texas, and then literally my brain's like, I want to stay in LA. It was kind of the same situation, wherein I started thinking about other stuff. And, not wanting to do that thing. The same goes for calling it hopelessness. When I was really heavily thinking about calling it hopelessness, forgot to get the fruit, but I'll do that in a second. I started thinking about options. And one thing is like, and I started thinking about why too. I think that was important. Loud noises. Since the beginning of the pandemic, I have been, for all intents and purposes, living in nostalgia. I've been playing old video games in some capacity or another, and EverQuest now has essentially taken up most of my time. It started with PlayStation games, PlayStation 2, playing some PlayStation 3, and some Nintendo, and all kinds of stuff. And that was just a method of like killing time while the pandemic was going on. But now it's a little different because while we're still technically in the pandemic, in many ways we are not. People are going back to work, whether people want to or not. And it's creating, the new, if you will. And I'm having a hard time finding a job anyway. If I spend all my time just reliving the past in some capacity or another, then I'm definitely not getting anywhere. I'm definitely not getting anything done that I really want, including, financial and housing stability and all that. So I've got to take certain steps. I've got to take certain actions to avoid being homeless again. I didn't do anything with regards to the Twitch stream today. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not even going to play any requests today unless I've effectively done everything else, as it were. Unplug my phone real quick. It's not super dying or anything. It's just I wanted to make sure that I had juice while I was doing this video, but I'll do this real quick. Loud noises again. It's the phone. I was like, why am I getting buzzed? It says the phone is being plugged in, derp. You know, I mean, like, what was I doing with the bread making and stuff? That's new. You know, I was trying new stuff in one way or another. But I need to try new stuff that's outside of the comfort zone. It's outside of the nostalgia trap, if you will. I mean, this happens every now and then. I don't, you know, who knows what it is. I'm not a dream interpreter. I don't think dreams really have any meaning. But often, you know, it probably has something to do with stress related to work. But I had a recurring dream in the last few months where I literally went back to work at my last job in security back in Texas. Like, I literally went back to the building as if nothing changed, which, I mean, obviously that's not how that would work anyway. Addition of sour cream, put it just at the top. There's a little bit left over. But it tastes better. So what I need to do today is prepare myself. Like, the money hasn't even been, I haven't made any purchases through the Fidelity because, you know, it was done on Good Friday, so everything was closed. So, you know, probably end up having to deal with whatever the bullshit situation from the taxes is. But I'm not a man of action, but I need to be for myself because nobody else is going to do it for me. I just finished watching most recent video from Adam Ragusa, and, you know, he's talking about some of the same issues where he's like, when he's doing, you know, these things, you know, he's going to keep doing these things. If he's exercising regularly, he's going to keep exercising regularly. And, you know, it was a even though I had known about the word inertia long time ago, I had never really put it into any kind of like perspective when it comes to, you know, human behavior and all that. I was just like, I was same kind of phrasing effectively. I'm a creature of habit and I'm a creature of inertia. And one of the problems also when you're dealing with mental health issues in general is breaking that inertia in a healthy way. You know, for me, a lot of it is external forces. I have been heavily considering getting student loans just so that I can live. Just so that I can have a place to continue to stay. And so that I wouldn't have to work and I could just go back to school and get back into that situation of inertia. But that may be a pretty big ass gamble. But I mean, so would being homeless, so. But if I don't do anything, then nothing happens, nothing changes, and like I said before in another video, you know, stuff's still gonna happen to you. It's just that you're not gonna be making any of those decisions. You're not gonna be in any kind of, you have no true control over life, but you're not gonna have any semblance of control. So the goal for today, just for today, not worrying too much about the upcoming future or anything of that nature. Gonna clean up, get camera ready, and then attempt to stream for like 30 minutes tops, maybe an hour depending. And that's it. That's what I'm doing today. Something small, one thing. You know, I'll have to consider questions to ask, etc. To figure out communication methods. Because, and like he'd mentioned in this Ask Adam, which is per his podcast that he does every Saturday. I haven't really watched any of his podcasts other than like one, but he was talking about Billy Joel and Taylor Swift, comparing them and how they work, and sort of the dichotomy of continuing when you're effectively done having something to say and either retiring or not. And how there's a lot of artists out there who have continued to put out content, but they've pretty much done saying what they're saying. Whereas with Billy Joel, had pretty much finished saying what he was saying when he retired. Now, he's touring and stuff, and he sings all the old hits and stuff, and he said all this stuff in the video, but he's done saying what he needs to say through song. But then he also, you know, Adam went on to say that may have been bad for him, because if you don't use it, you lose it. It atrophies. And so there is this paradox. And he was saying that, you know, Taylor Swift is pretty much in that point where she's kind of already said what she needs to say. She's just better at saying it. But her message is already out there. And the reason I brought those up is because I still don't feel like I have said what I need to say. Sure, maybe I have. I don't know, but I don't feel like it. And I'm definitely not on any kind of top. I'm never going to be on top, as it were. I'm never going to make it. Because I don't have it in me to do what's necessary to reach that level. I learned that when I got discovered. I didn't learn it then. I learned it after the fact. But it wasn't in me to be in a room by myself and then to, you know, schmooze with people and do all this weird sort of social engineering, if you will. It's not in me to do that. And maybe I should, but I don't, it's not in me. I might have done it 20 years ago, 15 years ago even, but not now. Now I want to find a way to empower others. I've always wanted to, in one form or another, but I needed, for me, when I was younger, to find a way to empower myself. And I didn't really realize how to do that. And I find now that perhaps the best way to empower myself is through empowering others. Kind of like how people talk about volunteering and stuff. And for all I know, this will not be a success and it will fall on its face. And I still have to look for other jobs anyway because of that. But if I can figure out how to accomplish this goal that I'm after, in some capacity or another, listen to feedback and strategize about how better to do things, just like with, the baking and stuff. Who's to say? Maybe it'll last 3 weeks. Tops. I don't know. Like, I haven't done anything with the sourdough starter, and I would say the sourdough starter is very much a reflection of how I'm feeling. But perhaps I need to restart my starter despite how I feel. I don't know. Discipline is difficult for me. It's easy for me to fall back onto old habits because they have been comforting in one way or another in times of stress. But they have also not been efficient in accomplishing anything. So, I have to try to take some steps. Make this work. And if in the process I find myself wanting to continue despite failure, that's good. Just like with the sourdough. Oh, I just cracked my elbow and it felt so good. So today is shave and shower. Probably, in fact, shit, then shave, then shower, then stream. The 4 S's. I had a dream last night. It was weird. Strange. And I even had a dream within that dream. I had multiple dreams last night, of course. One of them, though, the one that I was talking about is like this girl that I knew from elementary school that I had learned, grew up with in some capacity or another through high school. She was kind of like a point of affection. I think I had a crush on her. I'm pretty sure I did have a crush on her. But I never really broached that subject. And I think in this, it was kind of like an attempt as well. There was some weird shit. Like at one point, I had a dream of her talking to Mort from Planescape Torment, which is a floating skull. Except this skull was more like the size of a room. And she was having some weird philosophical discussions with it and concepts of choice, whereby she only had like the skull was only giving her like 1 or 2 choices or something, or it was giving her like a list of 4 things, all of which basically forced a 1 or 2 choice, and then somehow she had it in her brain or she got a straw or something, and there was air and water in the straw, and somehow those 2 things said, hey, the same thing can happen at the same time, so you can make both choices. And I have no idea if those have anything to do with real life. I don't think so. The brain is weird. Dream interpretation is, at best, pseudoscience. One can then look at those things and attribute them to real life and then make connections if you wish. And those would be called coincidences. But to say that your dreams are literal interpretations of the real world, and you just have to, it's all bullshit. If you want to do it for fun, that's fine. But if you want to tell people this is how it works, no. Good luck with that. You're no smarter than everybody else who's already been trying to learn this shit, methodically. And believe me, I used to believe this shit. I used to believe that dreams meant something, that astrology was a thing, that numerology was a thing. But none of it matters. Like, the Fibonacci sequence isn't magic either. It's like, why is the Fibonacci sequence in so many things in life? What's a simple answer? It's something that things can fall into. So if you take the one concept of that I've been sort of espousing throughout last at least decade, is that there's the path of least resistance. Be that a person who wants to do little because they're, in a state of inertia, if you will. And also inertia is the same kind of situation, An object in motion tends to stay in motion unless acted upon by an equal force, or not an equal force, sorry, unless acted upon by an outside force. An object at rest tends to stay at rest until acted upon by an outside force. Those two things are required when it comes to the concept of inertia. You need to mention both. An object in motion, an object at rest. They tend to do those things unless acted upon by an outside force. And that is why calling myself a person of inertia makes total sense, because I usually need to be acted upon by an outside force, but I've got to somehow figure out an inside force thing, which sucks. Because I tend to stay at rest, or I tend to stay in motion. Why was I bringing those up? Shit. I got lost in my detraction. I mean, it's like, fuck it, I was talking about childhood crush, dream, choices. Oh, dream interpretation. There's no way for us to know that dreams have literal meanings, because we still have no understanding of those things. And here's one of the things that I hate about stuff when it comes to pseudoscientific stuff and the like. People have this thought in their head, whatever the thought may be, it doesn't matter. And then science later on proves that very thing. And they're like, see, I was telling you this whole time, I was right. No, you weren't right, because you didn't have any information on it. You just wanted people to believe you. That's it. You had it in your head that you were right about a thing without any evidence, without any proof, without any kind of methodology to ensure a step-by-step process of understanding these things. And you just wanted people to believe you because you were like, oh my God, this makes sense. And you, that person who just happened to be right, also don't know how many people had a completely different thought in their head, who had the same level of conviction as you, who ended up being wrong. Because you were then, at that very moment, experiencing a kind of survivorship bias. It's like when people talk about, it's like when somebody says they expected an airplane crash that day. and then an airplane crashed. Well, they didn't know exactly which plane. And even if it happened to be the one that they were thinking about, that person isn't then saying, oh wait, what about all the other people who have these thoughts and they thought it was going to be their plane? And, or what about the rest of the fucking year where there were no plane crashes, etc.? And how many people thought that their family members, I mean, fuck, I'm on planes sometimes thinking the damn thing's gonna fucking crash. And I know that they're safe. I am fully aware that airplanes are fucking safe. They are safer by far compared to cars. And yet, I still freak out sometimes. I'm not afraid of flying, but I still kind of freak out, especially during turbulence. Because I don't like the sensation of falling. And that happens sometimes in turbulence. It sucks. And so then my mind goes crazy because I'm a catastrophist. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to fall out of the fucking sky. And even if we did, it doesn't necessarily mean that my fears were somehow founded. It was unluck. It was a kind of luck that's bad. You know, unlucky. Your number's up. Someday, your number's going to be up, one way or another. Most of us are going to just die from heart attacks or some kind of heart problem. That, if you will, is the curse of a developed country. We stop dying from wars, for the most part. We stop dying from stupid diseases, from pathogens and the like. And we die from old age. Body starts falling apart. And when we have better healthcare, we will start living longer, as we have been, even though our healthcare is pretty good. It's just, it sucks for accessibility. It's like starving. There are people in this country who are still starving. It's not because we have a lack of food. It's because we have a distribution problem. And a lot of it has to do with, profiteering. Same thing goes with healthcare. We have plenty of good healthcare. It's just the accessibility makes people healthcare poor. And we need to stop tying it to our employers, our employment. It needs to not be associated with employment, because then that subjugates you to being tied to your employer for what should be a universal right, a universal necessity. It should not be a benefit to working somewhere. It shouldn't be something that makes it competitive. But anyway. So I have that to contend with too. Trying to figure out how to do one thing and another and another and another and another. But today it's finish this up. Take a little break after. Probably take a shit. Because I can't be shaving my head after I drink this, because then I'm going to be all like tipping over and, I don't want to accidentally puke or anything like that. So I got to wait a little bit. And I don't have to interpret my dreams. I have to make decisions. And if interpreting your dreams helps you make decisions, fine. But I'm going to make decisions that hopefully will be efficient and progressively get me out of this nostalgia trap. So for all intents and purposes, I've effectively done what I need to do in a request. Kind of like the Billy Joel, Taylor Swift thing, now that I think about it. Within the game, if you will, I have said what needs to be said through the actions of this, that, or the other, exploring, killing this, that, or the other, challenges, whatnot. Yeah, it's more fun when it's easier. That's for sure. I'm on top, as it were. And quitting while you're ahead, quitting while you're on top is better. And so I'm going to need to start transitioning from that to something else. Have fun.